Hello, I'm Mr. K, and we continue our journey into the history of religion while studying the transcultural nursing. So today we will talk about Islam. Islam, second largest religion, pretty much after Christianity is the largest one, with about 1.8 billion Muslims worldwide. Scholars typically date the creation of Islam to 7th century, making it the youngest of the major world religions. Islam started in Mecca, in modern-day Saudi Arabia, during the time of the Prophet Muhammad's life. Today, the faith is spreading rapidly throughout the world. The word Islam means submission to the will of God. Followers of Islam are called Muslims. Muslims are monotheistic and worship one all-knowing God who is, in Arabic, is known as Allah. Followers of Islam aim to live a life of complete submission to Allah. They believe that nothing can happen without Allah's permission, but humans, they have a free will. Islam teaches that Allah's word was revealed to the Prophet Muhammad through the angel Gabriel. The angel Gabriel in the Christian mythology is the same as the Gabriel and Gabriel. So the same angel known in Christianity and Judaism. Muslims believe several prophets were sent to teach Allah's law. They respect some of the same prophets as Jews and Christians, including Abraham, who they consider the forefather and call them Ibrahim, the Moses, who they call the prophet Musa, and Jesus, who they call the prophet Isa. Muslims contend that Muhammad was the final prophet. Mosques are places where Muslims worship. Some important Islamic holy places include the Kaaba in Mecca, the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, on the place of the Jewish Second Temple, and the Prophet Muhammad's mosque in Medina. Quran is a major holy text of Islam. The Hadith is another important book. Muslims also revere some material found in Judeo-Christian Bible. Followers worship Allah by praying and reciting the Quran. They believe there will be a day of judgment and life after death. Very similar to the Christian religion. Central idea in Islam is jihad, which means struggle. While the term has been used negatively in mainstream culture, Muslims believe it refers to internal and external efforts to defend their faith. Also rare, this can include military jihad if just a just war is needed. And therefore, it got the bad name. The Prophet Muhammad, sometimes spelled Muhammad or Muhammad, was born in Mecca in Saudi Arabia in 570 AD. Muslims believe that he was the final prophet sent by God to reveal their faith to mankind. According to Islamic texts and traditions, the angel named Gabriel visited Muhammad in approximately 610 AD when he was around 40 years old already, while he was meditating in a cave. The angel ordered Muhammad to recite the words of Allah. Muslims believe that Muhammad continued to receive revelations from Allah throughout the rest of his life. Starting in about 613, Muhammad began preaching throughout Mecca the message he received. He taught that there was no other God but Allah, and the Muslims should devote their lives to this God. In 622, Muhammad traveled from Mecca to Medina with his supporters. This journey became known as Hijrah and makes the mark of the beginning of the Islamic calendar. Some 7 years later, Muhammad and his many followers returned to Mecca and conquered this region. He continued to preach until his death in 632. So we can count that from the Hijrah, he lived 10 more years. And that was the beginning of the spread of Islam. Actually, after Muhammad, Islam spread very rapidly. After Muhammad, there was a series of leaders known as caliphs who became successors of Muhammad. This system of leadership, which was run by the caliph, the Islamic ruler, was known as caliphate. The first caliph was Abu Bakr, Muhammad's father-in-law and very close friend. Abu Bakr died about 2 years after he was elected and was succeeded by the 634 by Caliph Umar, another father-in-law of Muhammad. When Umar was assassinated 6 years after becoming Caliph, Aman, Muhammad's son-in-law, took the role. Aman was also killed, and Ali, Muhammad's cousin, was selected to then be next Caliph. During the reign of the first 4 caliphs, Arab Muslims conquered large regions in the Middle East, including Syria, Palestine, Iran, Iraq. Islam also spread to the areas in Europe, Africa, and Asia. The Caliphate system lasted for centuries and eventually evolved into Ottoman's empire, which controlled large regions in the Middle East from about 1517 to 1917, when the World War I ended the Ottoman reign. So that's interesting thing. When Muhammad died, there was a debate. Who was supposed to replace him as a leader? You see, Muhammad was the ruler of the kingdom. And as a ruler of the kingdom, you know that he usually inherited by the bloodline. You know, like son or brother, you know, someone in the family. But he also was the prophet, the religious leader. And you know that in a religious leadership, usually the leader elected or chosen among the best disciples, the one of the best religion authorities. Like, for example, the Catholic Pope of Rome, is usually elected, new Pope elected from the conclave of the cardinals. The best of them become the Pope. So that was a question: who's supposed to inherit Muhammad? Who's supposed to replace him? The bloodline or the religious student, religious follower? Those who said it was supposed to be the bloodline, they called themselves Shiites. Those who said it was supposed to be the religious student or apostle or the follower, they were called Sunni. Sunni makes up about 90% of Muslims worldwide. They accept that the first 4 caliphs were the true successors to Muhammad. Shiite Muslims believe that only Caliph Ali and his descendants are the real successor to Muhammad. They deny the legitimacy of the first 3 caliphs. Today, Shiite Muslims have considerable presence in Iran, Iraq, and Syria. Other, smaller Muslim denominations within the Sunni and Shia group also exist. Some of these include Wahhabi. It's a Sunni sect made up of members of the Tamim tribe in Saudi Arabia. It was founded in the 18th century. Followers observe an extremely strict interpretation of Islam that was taught by Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Alawites, the Shiite form of Islam, prevalent in Syria. Followers hold similar beliefs about the Caliph Ali, but also observe some Christian and Zoroastrian holidays. By the way, the Syrian leader, Bashar al-Assad, he is Alawite. Another interesting sect is Nation of Islam. This mostly African-American Sunni sect was founded in 1930 in Detroit, Michigan, and considered to be a very radical and anti-Semitic sect of Islam denomination. Okay, Quran. Quran considered to be the most important holy book among Muslims. It contains some basic information taken from the Hebrew Bible, as well as revelations that were given to Muhammad. The text considered sacred word of God and supersedes any previous writing. Most Muslims believe that Muhammad's scribes wrote down his words, which became the Quran, because Muhammad himself was never taught to read or write. The book is written with Allah as the first person, speaking through Gabriel to Muhammad. It contains 114 chapters, which also calls surah. Scholars believe the Quran was compiled shortly after Muhammad's death, under the guidance of Caliph Abu Bakr. Islamic calendar, also called the Hijra calendar, is a lunar calendar used in Islamic religion worldwide. The calendar began in the year 622. It's when Muhammad ran from Mecca to Medina. Well, some call it journey, some call it escape, because he tried to go to Mecca and try to convince the people over there to follow his vision of religion, but was rejected. That's why he had to run away in 622, and several years later, as we know, came back and conquered that region with very bloody revenge for rejecting his ideas. Islamic calendar indicates the proper days of Islamic holidays and celebrations, including the period of fasting and prayer known as Ramadan, which occurs during the 9 months of the calendar. As in many religions, there is no single image or symbol of Islam that is universally accepted by all Muslims worldwide. You've probably seen the crescent moon and the star, and in some Muslim countries, it's actually accepted as the symbol of Islam and became even the part of their flags. But it was the mainly symbol of Ottoman Empire, and that's how it spread after. In some other applications, such as International Red Cross and Red Crescent, humanitarian aid movement, Red Crescent indicates that followers of Islam are respected and treated accordingly. You see, it was before, in the beginning, it was only Red Cross. But later on, because crosses only represents Christianity, and that mission of the humanitarian and that pretty much worldwide and universal, also was accepting the crescent moon as the sign of unification, so the Muslims also could participate in that mission and not to be excluded. Color green, which you've seen on many flags of Muslims, it's, well, they say it was the favorite color of Muhammad. And that's why it became the flags in many countries which follow the Islam. So, Islam. There are 5 basic pillars that are essential to the Muslim faith. So, first of all, it's a shahada. That means you declare your faith in God and believe in Muhammad. Salat. You have to pray 5 times a day, at dawn, at noon, afternoon, sunset, and evening. Zakat. You have to give to those who need. Sawm. It's a fast during Ramadan. And Hajj. It's you have to do the pilgrimage to Mecca at least once during the lifetime, if you are able. And we can see every year, at least before the coronavirus, it was every year, huge pilgrimage to Mecca. And they were walking around the Kaaba. This is the meteorite, the black stone which fall from the sky. Islam legal system is known as Sharia law. This is a faith-based code of conduct, directs Muslims of how they should live in nearly every aspect of their lives. Sharia law requires men and women to dress modestly. It also outlines marriage guidelines and other moral principles for Muslims. Some of those principles going in separate ways, I would say, nicely, with the Judeo-Christian and contemporary rules of society in Western world, and therefore there are sometimes conflicts because of that misunderstanding. For example, as the marriage to young children. It is said that Muhammad married one of his wives when she was 6 years old, but he didn't consummate the marriage until she was 9. In many countries, that's considered to be illegal. However, in that time, in the time of Muhammad, this was a pretty much well and widely spread and widely practiced law, and Muslims follow that until now in some very strict denominations. And therefore, from the contemporary point of view of some rules in some countries, they're considered to be illegal. In Sharia law, by Sharia law, if crimes are committed, they have very harsh punishments. For example, theft. If somebody steals something, Sharia law says to amputate the person's hand. Adultery is punished by death, by stoning. So usually they're more harsh to women, and death by stoning actually is not the old way of punishment. In some countries, they practice even now. They kill women who they accuse of adultery by throwing stones until she dies. Many Muslims, I must say, do not support such extreme measures, and they condemn those atrocities. However, by Sharia law, it is not only allowed, but actually encouraged, and this is the rule, and therefore, in some countries, it is practicing as the method of punishment. Prophet Muhammad built the first mosque, as they say, in the courtyard of his house in Medina. And the interesting thing that even today, the mosques follow the same principles which was established in the first year of Hijrah in 622. Prayers, Muslim prayers, often conducted in the mosque with large open doors and in a large courtyard, sometimes even on the street. Every person, every Muslim, when they pray, they have to face Mecca. Therefore, it's very important in every mosque to have that decorative feature, which everybody is facing, because that's where the Mecca is. So when Muslims pray in any other country, in other part of the world, they first need to find out in what direction is Mecca, because they all must pray facing that direction. Men and women pray separately, like in the Orthodox Judaism. Muslims may visit mosque 5 times a day for each of the prayer session, not like in Hinduism when they can come anytime they want. In addition to hosting prayers, mosques often function as public gathering and social centers. Muslims celebrate many holidays like Eid al-Adha, which is, it's, by the way, pretty much Judaism. I reflected Judaism when the Abraham wanted to sacrifice his son Isaac to God. Muslims celebrate this event as one of the major holiday in Islam. Another one is Eid al-Fitr, which is the Ramadan, when they're fasting. And that time, Muslims cannot eat during the day. So they eat during only the after sunset. I remember I had Muslim students. Well, and one of them actually was coming to me every day before class, telling me during the month of Ramadan, telling me what time by the astronomical calendar that day the sun is going down. That means what time they can eat. And I usually try to schedule our lunch break for that time so they could go and eat as soon as possible. They didn't have to wait until the regular scheduled lunches. I made it for them to easy because I know that it was difficult to fast during the whole day. They were very hungry. In recent years, Islam's supposed association with terrorism, that's especially was after 9/11, all the terrorists were Muslims, and it was very difficult because many Muslims were attacked in retaliation for that tragedy. But it's very important to understand that not Muslims are radical, and even though while some Muslims actually use their faith to justify terrorism, the vast majority do not do so. In fact, Muslims actually very frequently the victims of that violence themselves, because that's what on the Middle East very often Sunni kill Shia, Shia kill Sunni, Wahhabi kill whatever they want to kill, and all of them kill Christians and Jews. So we're talking about the radical Islam, which is not reflecting the idea of Islam itself, because in Quran, Prophet Muhammad was saying that Muslims should respect the people of the book. That's how he called the Jews. And the book was the Bible, because they realized it was they have the same origin, the monotheism, one God, Abraham, So those who try to preach anti-Semitism and intolerance, they do not actually follow Islam as much as, by the way, in Christianity, those who are intolerant to Islam or Judaism as well. As you remember, the Crusades killed a lot of Muslims. During the time of the Crusades, the Christian Knights, they were killing Muslims just because they were Muslims, and Muslims pay back the same. And in both sides did it in the name of God, which pretty much the same entity, which is in Islam it's called Allah, and in Christianity it's called Jehovah or Yahweh, with Jesus Christ as his son. You understand, the division was made by people, not by God. Recent surveys have found that in countries with high Muslim population, the majority of Muslims have overwhelmingly negative views of the terrorism or terrorist group or the terrorist caliphate like Daesh, ISIS. Muslims try to clear the misconception about their faith. Religion continues to spread rapidly. And honestly, today Islam is the world's fastest growing religion. And by the end of the century, some scholars expect or predict that Islam actually surpassed Christianity as the largest religion. There are a few things you need to remember when you take care of the patients of Islamic faith. First of all, as Jews, they don't eat pork. Modesty is very important. As in Judaism, stranger men cannot touch the woman, cannot see the woman's body parts. Therefore, it's supposed to be female nurse to take care of the Muslim woman, who's supposed to be mostly covered completely as much as possible for dignity. In Islam, like in Judaism, some food is allowed, some food is forbidden. In Judaism, the food is called kosher. In Islam, it's called halal. Pretty much the same idea. And you understand there are so many similar things because, well, Judaism and Islam, very similar religion, and they came from the same root, and they have the same father, Abraham, who said the son Ishmael and the son Isaac, and those two sons actually gave to the way of two branches of that one root. Another thing is important is that left hand is not a good hand. Therefore, if you're going to give something to Muslim patient, try to use only right hand for that. In death, that's very important. Muslim faith requires the deceased to be buried as soon as possible, usually before the end of the day, before sunset. That was done because in the Middle East there was very hot, and that was done to prevent the decomposition of the body under the heat, and therefore they were doing it that fast. Nowadays it's not necessary. We have morgues, but still religion required that. There are many different interesting facts about Islam, and you will actually benefit much if you learn about it. It's an interesting religion and very controversial for political reasons. I can tell you that I had several Muslim students, and I can say only good things about them. None of them were impolite or lazy. They're hardworking, smart, polite, accurate, make good nurses. I don't say that's because they're Muslims. It's just saying that the misconception and misunderstanding about Islamic faith should not be reflected on everyone who follows that religion. And again, remember, you should be always non-judgmental and learn as much as possible about every religion, because all those religions reflect the cultural aspects of your patients. That's it for today.